Two. Put that in your pocket.
Right.
And now I want to be 2 steps closer to God. Thanks, Vic.
No worries. I've got a little book I want to read to you. I'll know when to stop when everyone starts walking out. Before I start, I just want to ask the Lord Jesus Christ to put a blessing on what I say. Hope I don't muck things up too much. But you can't go far wrong when you're guided by this book. So please, Lord, get me on the right track and help me to say the right things. Amen. So before I start, if you weren't here last year, I just told people about veggie evangelism, but how I got started in it. About 7 years ago, 2018, a guy came round. He tried to. I used to park a big trailer on a highway, and I had a sign on it: "Stop the Islamisation of Australia." And I used to park it there from daylight till dark every day. And I got a lot of interesting visitors, Muslims and trade unionists and leftards that didn't like it. And one of the guys that called in, he was trying to witness to me, and I said, I'm not interested. But he came back 3 times. And the third time he came back, he dropped some food around in my house. I think he did that a few times, didn't he, Carleen? He dropped a few meals into us. He was a good Christian bloke. And 40 years before that, an American pastor tried to get me to go to church, but I thought he was a con man because he had an American accent. And to tell you the truth, I was wallowing around in sin like a pig in the mud, and I didn't want to know about God. So 40 years after this guy planted the seed, John Brown comes around. I owe him a great debt, because what's salvation worth, you reckon? It's priceless. And I got saved, but that guy that was bringing the food around to me, he used to grow bananas and things, and he'd also drop in some bananas. And so it was actually like a veggie evangelism that helped me finally get saved at the age of 67. And when I look back now, there was a few things I couldn't get my mind around. One of them was the rapture. I mean, when you've never ever, I'd never opened a Bible or I'd never prayed in 67 years. And then I get saved and they tell me about the rapture, and I thought, who's going to believe that? Twinkle of an eye. I thought, obviously that's not literal. But, so I was like a dog with a bone. I wanted to find out if that was this true. So I studied that for literally hundreds of hours just on the rapture. And now, anyone that doesn't believe in the pre-tribulation rapture, they haven't done enough reading, right? And the other thing was eternal salvation. Like, I don't know how many sins I committed in 67 years, but I didn't miss many. And I duplicated them. And then when you get told that you're a born-again Christian and they're all gone, I thought, that's too good a deal. But then when they said that the sins that you commit today and tomorrow, they're also covered. So eternal salvation, I just chased that down for so long, same hundreds and hundreds of hours. And my wife bought me a little book about eternity. And actually, I told someone here before, I was conceived under the Harbour Bridge. Remember the eternity sign on the bridge? Well, Mum and Dad used to go down there and take a blanket down. Poor Mum was a beautiful Baptist girl, and she married a Catholic boy. So the eternity thing, it had a big impact on me. And most people can't get their mind around eternity. It's hard to comprehend, especially younger ones, but it's a long time. So I get saved, and then once you're really a born-again Christian, I mean, if you really haven't got a burn to get other people, lead other people to the Lord, there's something missing, isn't there? You know, another thing I studied for hundreds of hours was hell, because I could have been there many a time. I I had encephalitis when I was 5. I was in hospital for 7 months. I should have died, but I didn't. And then it was Vietnam, car accidents, hunting accidents, snakes. I had many. I don't know why God saved me, but there must be a reason. I'm just looking for that reason right now. Anyway, so then I start thinking about witnessing to people. And what Matt said, right, he's got a survivalist mentality, be prepared. Well, I've always been like that. And if society closed down tomorrow, I could live out of my yard. It might get boring. Bananas, dragon fruit, parsley, lemons, limes, killer beans, killer baked beans. But I'm prepared. I could live out of my yard. And then there's so many people around now. Like there might be someone here. Is anyone here older than 75? Right? Well, when you get to say 85 or 95, you mightn't be able to do what I do with gardening, right? But you can still, say, cook a plate of pikelets and give them to your neighbour. That's food evangelism, isn't it? Because I give away about 80% of what I grow, and when I do it, it gives me an excuse to talk to someone. I can come to someone and say, would you like a bunch of bananas? And give them a Bible tract while you do it, but you can talk to them at the same time. I started giving food to an old lady who's she's dying of cancer now, and she didn't want to know about God like I didn't. I can understand why people won't, their ears are blocked, because I was like that for 67 years. But this old lady, I'd just drop her around food, and my wife would cook things for her, and she's got saved. And I got to take her to the hospital on Monday, and she's worried she mightn't come back out. And she's not worried so much for herself, but her husband's got dementia, and he's a bit older than her. And but she knows where she's going. She knows that she's saved, but her worry is the husband that'll be left behind. So with veggie evangelism, like if you've got a lemon tree, just giving a couple of lemons to your neighbour, it's not going to change the world, but it gives you a chance to say to him, like I've got a neighbour that's a Jehovah's Witness, and I've tried, you can't argue, like I'm an argumentative sort of person, you can't argue with them and win them across to the Lord. That he doesn't believe that Jesus Christ was God. Well, anyone that doesn't believe that Jesus was God, I'm sorry, he's going to hell. And if you don't believe in the Trinity, well, guess what? God sees and hears everything. And I mean, that's why I like helping people with fruit and veggies. And bananas, I've got 30 banana trees, right? I don't know how many bananas I picked this year, probably 2,500, 3,000. Not bunches, but bananas. And we gave most of them away, but that's just an investment in meeting someone else. And I give those bananas to another guy, and he uses them to give to other people. And this guy, John Brown, I'll tell you how I met him. He taught me about this evangelism with food. Well, what happened when I got saved, I started going to church with him. And then he took me over to has anyone ever heard of a charity called Connected Inc? No? It's a charity over at Brendale, and they send shipping containers overseas full of aid. And there was this guy there that needed a hand, and his name was Alan Crampon. Right? He was the first pastor or second pastor at this church years ago, it's 1979. So I became friendly with him, and I've found that I'm a lot more comfortable spending time with good old saved Baptist guys. And I love the retired pastors when their eyesight starts to go, because I'm a chance of getting all their books. And this guy, Alan Crampon, he became like a mentor to me. And he taught me about rightly dividing the Word of God. And some people don't even appreciate what they got their hands on when they get this book, the King James Version of the Bible. I'll just give you a couple of facts about this Bible. I mean, I just love this stuff. if I can find it. Does anyone here know, has anyone ever counted the words in the Bible? Huh? There are 3,566,480 letters in the Bible. There's only 810,697 words. 31,175 verses. 1,189 chapters. 254 chapters in the New Testament. 66 books. The shortest chapter in the Bible. Does anyone know what that is?
Chapter.
Yep.
In Psalms.
In Psalms. Yep. Psalm 117, the shortest chapter in the Bible. The longest chapter, Psalm 119. This is what I love. There are 594 chapters before Psalm 118, and there are 594 chapters after Psalm 118. Only God could organise that, right? If you add up all the chapters except Psalm 118, you get 1,188 chapters. Right? Now Psalm 118, verse 8, if you write that on the wall, 118, verse 8, that's 1188, isn't it? Right? In that Psalm 118, verse 8, there are 14 letters. The middle two words in that verse are the Lord. Like, you can't, there's 810,697 words in this book, and the middle two words are the Lord. Who do you reckon organised that? Like, man couldn't do that, could he? And you know what? If you've got another version of the Bible and someone's added to it or subtracted from it, like Westcott and Hort have, you've only got to add one word or take one word out of that Bible, and the middle two words aren't the Lord, are they? And so I find that just amazing. And then when you read this book, I went through there looking for foods. You know, what sort of foods did people eat in the Old Testament? And I mean, there are a lot of foods there mentioned, and I wrote out a list of all the foods, but you'd just be bored if I read them all out. But I went down to a shop and bought some biblical foods: figs, dates. This is, you know that you can live on dates for about 4 years just with dates and water? That's survival food. And if you've got a garden growing at home, somebody brought some, what are those? Grapefruit, are they? Who brought those? Yeah, all right. Well, well, I mean, you wouldn't eat them like an orange, but if you put a bit of sugar on them, they're all right. But like, just say you've got a grapefruit tree and someone else has got a lemon tree, and what are you growing? Herbs and stuff, aren't you? Vegetables, mate?
There's a lot of things growing.
Yeah.
We've got Ruby grapefruit as well, sadly.
Yeah,
Some oranges, some bananas.
yeah. Well, in a little congregation, if everybody's just got something growing and you do a bit of bartering, and the excess, you can use that to give to other people. You could even set it out on the footpath, free fruit. Hide behind a tree until someone comes past, jump out with a Bible tract, right? You can get really creative. Like, I've got John 3:16 on the tailgate of the ute. The idea is, now I won't speed, I won't road rage anyone, I won't cut anyone off, will I? No. And if the police pull me up, I just give them a Bible tract. There's a lot of different ways, apart from vegetables and food, that you can witness to people. Like when I take the old lady to the hospital, I always have some tracts in my pocket, and I sit down in the waiting room, and there's some... I mean, when you go to the hospital with 80-year-olds and you're in the chemotherapy or the place where they scan them with all the machines, I don't know what, radiation, you don't see a lot of young, healthy people in there, do you? And I don't know what percentage of the population are saved, but if you've got a Bible tract in your pocket, and someone's sitting there looking bored, and no one talks to each other in the world now, do they? I can say, how you going, mate? Oh, good. You get bored sitting here? Oh, yeah. I've got something for you to read. You can get really creative. You can use fruit, you can use vegetables, you can use Bible tracts anywhere, anytime, anyone you meet. Those little baby Bibles. The old couple at Tweed Heads, someone here told me they know Keith and Mary Gibson. Yeah. For 11 years they've been getting those little baby Bibles printed, and they'll give them to anyone. So I got one, and I rang the guy and I said, how much are they? He said, I'll give you some for nothing. He said, I'll post them up. But I went down to see him, and I got a box of 1,000 of them. So when I got the first 1,000 of him, they told me that they'd done 492,000 of those little gold Bibles. And the idea is, it's only 36 verses, but you can have them in your pocket or your purse or your wallet, and you can carry them anywhere you go. Kids love them. And they mightn't read it, but their parents might read it. I asked the guy at our church how many Bible tracts they printed over the years. He said, I can't give an exact figure, but it's around 140 million. And that guy, Alan Crampon, that used to be the pastor here, for 39 years he ran Philippine and Island missions. And I know that we loaded 3 pallets of Bible tracts into a container one day, and I think there was well over 1 million tracts that went to the Philippines. So this just shows you what one Bible tract can do. A guy that who runs that printing press, I've got Bible tracts off him through our church before, and he told me a story the other day. Some homeless guy was going through a bin looking for something to eat, obviously probably not a worker. You know, he could have been an alcoholic or a druggie or just on hard times, but he found a Bible tract and he rang the pastor, you know, like you said, Matt. I just found this thing with your phone number on it. So the pastor went out and picked him up, took him back to his house and gave him a tub and some clothes. And the guy rang him again a couple of days later and said, can I get some Bible tracts? He ended up putting out 10,000 Bible tracts for the pastor. And guess what he's doing now? He's a pastor himself. That's just from one Bible tract. So that's why I like these Bible tracts from the Herald of Hope. I mean, boy, they're powerful, you know, especially that one Eternity. But if you find one you like, I've got a real burn to save people from hell because I was so close to going there. Like, when we first got married, I was a heavy drinker. I only drank when I was awake, but I only drank, like, it was a Christmas party and I got drunk and my wife had gone home because I was drunk, and I tried to drive home thinking I better get home, and I rode a car off on a telegraph pole. The last pole before you go on, has anyone ever been under the Indooroopilly Bridge in Brisbane? The road that goes under? Yeah. Well, if I hadn't hit that last telegraph pole, I'd have been in the river. So if I'd died that day, I'd have been in hell. And another thing I studied was hell, because I came so close to being there. And I've got 2 kids, Shannon and Sean. They're both, Shannon's 50 now, isn't she, Colleen? And my son's 50 next March. They're not saved. And that's the greatest regret in my life. I never gave them any religious training. I didn't know about God. Because I went to a Catholic school and me and the principal didn't get on very good. And he wouldn't leave, so I did. And then I left home about the same time, and then I ended up joining the army. But I really, anyone here got kids that aren't saved? Yeah. How bad do you want that? You know? Yeah. What's more important? Nothing. You know? And when you study hell and you know how long it's for, boy, don't you want to get your kids saved. And it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it, but if you can find a way to get your kids' attention. Like right now, my daughter says, I'm not a sinner, Dad. Doesn't she, Carleen? She tells me she's not a sinner, but what she's really saying is, I'm not as bad as you were, you know, because I set that example. So that's my testimony, and that's why I've got such a burn to save people from hell. Not just my kids, but that's most important. But anyone that's not a born-again Christian, they're going to hell. Because God's got a lot of promises. I don't know how many promises in this book. You'd probably have a better idea of it. There's a lot of promises in this book, but some of them are conditional and some of them are unconditional. And the conditional ones are like a lot of the ones in the Old Testament to the Jew, but the unconditional promises, like eternal salvation, once you're saved, I mean, can you imagine you can't lose it? How good's that? And I even said to Pastor one day, I said, what if I go back to my old ways? Gambling, drinking, getting angry with people, fighting. Not that I'd probably do any good at that now at my age, but he said, well, you can't lose your salvation, but God might punish you on earth. I said, how? He said, there's lots of ways. There's sickness, there's cancer, car accidents. He said, if you're staggering out of the pub drunk, you might get run over by a brewery truck. You know, you will get punished for your sin, but you can't lose your salvation. So I love that. And that's why I think it's so important. And that's just a tool that I like, is this veggie evangelism. And so look at, if that guy hadn't given me a feed and witnessed to me, I wouldn't have met Alan and Margaret. And I don't know exactly how many shipping containers of aid they sent to the Philippines, but you can get a lot in a 40-foot shipping container. And they were chock-a-block. And I helped him load a few. And he used to go around all the medical facilities and hospital beds. You know those steel hospital beds? They're heavy. He lifted so many tons of those over the years. He'd ripped all his stomach muscles and he had all the operations done. And the doctor said to him in the end, we can't operate anymore, you've wrecked everything. And I wouldn't have met him except for food evangelism or veggie evangelism. Another guy named Paul Appleby, I met him exactly through the same thing, through this guy John Brown, and he started, he bought some land and started a youth camp called Winmalee. Ever heard of that, anyone? Yeah, it's down at the foot of the Blue Mountains. And I rang Paul's, I think he's 89, isn't he, Carleen? And he's really impatient old bloke, even worse than me. And he goes, he wants to go to heaven. He's ready to go. He wants to go now because he's got a lot of issues with getting around. But he's a tough old rooster. He just wants to be in heaven. And his wife doesn't like him talking like that. But that place, I rang him the other day and I said, how many people have been through Winmalee? You know, it's a youth camp. He reckons around about 120,000 visitors. And he didn't just get the land, but he raised the finance for it and he supervised all the building. He'd done amazing work. His whole life he's spent helping other people, and he's come to the end of the road now. And so I like to go out and I take him some food over occasionally, or a bit of fruit. I met him for lunch the other day, and I wouldn't have known any of those old champions. They were really good, godly men. I wouldn't have met any of them if it wasn't for that evangelism. It led me to those different people. And the Redland Bay Church down here, is anyone from Redland Bay or around here? Okay. I was talking to our guy from the print shop the other day, and he said, I was just asking him about how many tracts they'd printed. And he said, around 140 million. And I said, wow, that's unbelievable. Anyway, he was telling me about this Redland Bay Church. It's not like a young congregation like this, it's an older congregation, right? And they just haven't got the energy to go and walk around handing out Bible tracts. And they haven't got the energy to grow banana trees and do all the work that needs to be done. So what the congregation did, they rang this guy Peter, and they said, Pete, we can't walk around giving out your Bible tracts. We love them, but what we decided to do, we're all going to throw in a few dollars and give it to your church so you can pay someone to do the Bible tracts. He said, you don't need to pay us to put out Bible tracts. They said, well, we'll help to pay for the Bible tracts. So there's a little church down at Redland Bay, and they, every week, I don't know how much it is, but every week they give some money to their church to help with putting out tracts. So, I mean, how many old people are there that can hardly even get around? They've got a few bucks in the bank. Well, they can use that money to help with evangelism, even though they can't walk around and do it themselves. But see, dollars talk, don't they? Those little Bibles, every time they get a batch of 8,000 printed, it costs them $1,600, and then the old couple sit there and staple them together every night. And anyone that visits them, they get a cup of tea and a stapler. And they got free labour, right? So some of the other, that homeless man, the one tract in the rubbish, who knows, every tract we give out, it could have an effect that we'll never find. We don't know what happens with them. Like, how many tracts would Herald of Hope put out over the years, Alan?
Millions.
Millions and millions, right? And you don't know where most of them end up. Those little Bibles, he sent 1,000 to Nepal a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I hate to think what that would cost. It'd probably weigh 4 or 5 kilos. But some lady left them $80,000, and because she knew what their mission was to get the word of God out. And so this lady, obviously she must have been coming to the end of the road. She died and left them 80,000, and they invested that, and that money funds all those baby Bibles. 500,000 of them so far. So, you know, even if you can't do the work yourself, your dollars can work. And I mean, I said to our pastor one day, they were doing a fundraising for a missions trip to New Guinea, and a lot of people don't understand my sense of humour, right? You probably understand that, Matt. I said to pastor, I've got a good fundraising idea. He said, what's that? I said, we can start selling indulgences like the Catholic Church, make a fortune. And he went, oh. He nearly fainted, walked backwards. I mean, he knows I was joking, but I'm a bit too much for him sometimes. But if you think about what a guy like Alan Crampton's done, or this guy John Brown, I mean, he's got a business, a sign business, and he loves cooking food and giving it to people because he loves food. But I know for a fact that he's led about 20 different people to the Lord. And one of them was only 6 or 7 months ago, just before he died. I mean, and I'm one of them, so I know the power of this. You can call it veggie evangelism or food evangelism. There's so many different ways. Bible tracts, just talking to people, even wearing a shirt that says "Identified with Christ." I was trying to find a hat, a little, you know, like the little hats you wear to the football, a peak cap. I was trying to find one with a question mark on it, or a T-shirt with a big gold question mark on it, because eventually someone will say to you, "What's the question mark?" I'm glad you asked. You know, but I couldn't find anything that was big enough to sort of. But you know, there's so many different ways. I mean, if everyone was wearing a hat with a Bible verse on it, you wouldn't get 3:16 on a Bible tract, but you might get God loves you, or Jesus loves you, or we got to make our. I mean, our enemies, the leftards, the anti-Jews, the Labor government, the Greens especially, the Teals, all these people, they're out there pushing their agenda. They're anti-God, anti-Israel. When they say they're anti-Israel, they're telling you they're anti-God, aren't they? All right? They're the enemy. And, you know, I mean, I studied the imprecatory Psalms because I like King David. I mean, break their jaw, Lord, break their bones. He's my type of bloke, right? But you got to be careful. You can't pray people into hell, because you wouldn't do that, would you? And someone said to me once, you got to pray for your enemies. And Alan said it to me yesterday. I haven't become a good enough Christian yet that I can pray for people that want to wipe out Israel, a river to the sea. They're not just talking about moving them out, they want them all dead. Well, I know I should be praying for them. I just pray for these people to be removed from power. And I've got a list of all the imprecatory psalms in here. And I just try not to be too radical on it, but the Bible clearly teaches us, like all the men here, right, it's our duty to stand up for our religion. And it's like it's your duty to protect your house and your family. Well, this is our family, isn't it? We've got to stand up. And the Bible teaches that all the time. We've got to stand up for God and stand up for what we believe in. There's too many people that, our young ones, right, they've got their phones like this. And you can't even talk to them half the time. And they can go to a restaurant, and there's 3 people there, and they're all looking at their phones, they're not even talking to each other. And so communication's breaking down. And a good way of talking to people is, I'll see if this thing works now. That's a good way of talking to people. That's not the biggest bunch of bananas I've ever grown, but I think I had 36 on one hand, and there was 11 or 12 hands on one bunch. So there's a few good feeds on there. And if you didn't have any baked beans, you could swap some bananas for a can of baked beans. That's my biggest bunch. That's an old wheelbarrow I bought off an Indian guy. I was driving along the highway one day and I saw a car with a couple of Bible verses on it. So I tooted the horn and gave him a wave, and he pulled over. And he's an Indian evangelist, and he's going around witnessing people. He just stops everywhere on the road and starts talking to people about the Lord. But he was never given them any follow-up material. I said, okay, say you rattle their chain, how do they know where to go? They need a reference. So I gave him a few hundred Bible tracts, and now he's driving around and he's giving people Bible tracts as well. And I bought that wheelbarrow off him because he buys old stuff, or he gets stuff given to him, and that's an old Bricky's wheelbarrow. You see it's all been done up. I bought it off him for $200 because he needed some money. But I thought, well, he's doing God's work, so I need a wheelbarrow to put my big bunches of banana in. I couldn't lift that bunch on my own. A young bloke like you could, Matt, right? And maybe...
There is a way of getting them down, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, yeah. Yeah, with a machete you can just sort of lever them down, but you need the wheelbarrow to catch them. Yeah, I could have done that once, but not anymore. So that's a lime tree, and that lime tree, I haven't counted, but every week I get probably half a dozen limes off it, and it bears all year round. And lime juice in water is a lot better for you than Coca-Cola, and it's cheap. And I probably give most of the limes away to other people, but I get them for nothing. And once again, it's a good way of getting a chance to talk to people. There's a moringa tree, and if you have a look here, I'm going to run out of lead here. See where it's been cut off down there? I cut all that off 6 weeks ago, and see the leaves up the top, those new shoots? I can cut all that off and they're all back in 6 weeks. And then I dry the leaves, and you can make a tea with the leaves. And I don't drink a lot of it myself because I like the Egyptian red and green tea, but I do have it occasionally. But there's a congregation, I'll tell you who really knows about moringa, and that's the Asians and the island people. The ladies from New Zealand that go to a church up in Samford, they ring me every few months and say, have you got any more moringa? And they drink it all the time because it's so good for you. If you drink too much of it, you start to get younger. Yeah, and you could actually lose your pension if you got too young. But, and these here, that's my favourite thing, dragon fruit. You ever tasted them? The red dragon fruit? I saw the white ones yesterday when I bought that biblical food, and they were $17 a kilo. These here, some of them weigh nearly a kilo, and they're red. It's like, you ever cut someone's heart open? Hope not. That's what it looks like, right? It's just most beautiful fruit. And I don't know how many I picked this year, but people like, my granddaughters love them. Neighbours. People ring and say, have you got any dragon fruit? If you want a Bible tract, you can have one. So that's just a bit of the stuff I grow, but you can use that to great effect. And that Egyptian red tea, how we going with time?
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, I've got some Egyptian red tea there, and I've offered it to a few people here today, and they turn their nose up at it. Yeah, put a bit of honey in it, yeah. I'll just tell you about that Egyptian red, right? I mean, if there's any left, Alan, you can take it home with you, right? Hibiscus tea, it's Egyptian red. They only make about 10 or 12 tonne a year. They harvest it in Egypt, and most of it comes to Australia, and it gets sold through the health shops, but a mate of mine imports it. It's good for high blood pressure. It's a source of vitamin C. It's diuretic. I don't know what that means. It helps balance cholesterol. It protects against candida. I don't know what that is much either, but anyway. It helps with digestion, helps with obesity, weight loss. It's good for your kidneys. It reduces stone formation, urinary cooling, skin and liver support, purifies your blood. It's good for your skin and your hair, supports immune health. It's antibacterial. It's got anti-cancer properties. It fights free radicals. It relieves constipation, and it hydrates you. So, would you be better off with that or Coca-Cola? Right? And if you buy, I bought 80 bags and 40 bags in two separate containers. I brought the 80 bag down here, and I thought, well, you know, people can take a few home. But if you've got that at home, and someone comes to you whinging about one of their problems, because everyone's got problems, haven't they? The only people that haven't got problems, you know where they live?
Glory.
In the cemetery. And so if you've got Egyptian red tea bags, well, that's like a herb, isn't it? There's Vengie evangelism. You can give someone a tea bag and say, oh, you've got constipation, try these. Lower your blood cholesterol. You know, I'm not a doctor, right? But if hibiscus tea is good for you, I'll drink it. And then coconut oil, that's real good for you. Anyone here use cayenne pepper? How good's that? Like I locked myself out of the house the other day, 4 days, while my wife was away. So I couldn't ring, and she was in Caloundra, or no, Burham Heads. I couldn't ring her and say, come and let me in. And it's very hard to climb over my fence because I'm like you, right? You know, protect your castle. I've got long self-tappers like that going from the outside to the inside through every paling, so that if anyone climbs over the fence, they'll be screwed, won't they? I mean, it wouldn't be real pleasant, but there was one section of 6 feet where I didn't put the screws because I had a lot of banana trees there and I just couldn't get in there. I thought, well, I've got to get back in because I was going somewhere and my keys are inside, so I climbed over the fence. And I got one leg over, a 6-foot fence, but I forgot I was 75. So one leg over and the rest of me was over the other side. So, make a long story short, I just pushed myself up and I got everything over except this leg. But I remember reading that cayenne pepper, if you put it on a cut or a sore, it'll just congeal the blood straight away. So I did that and that stopped it. So I'll tell me if I run out of time, right? But I'll just tell you about cayenne pepper. Remember, who made cayenne pepper? God made it. He didn't make any rubbish, did he? It's good for heart health. It improves your blood flow. It boosts good cholesterol. It aids in weight loss by burning more calories. If you put too much in, you might burn you a bit, but It aids digestion and gut health. I mean, say you had intestinal worms. If you eat a lot of chilies and cayenne pepper, them worms have had it, right? It'll burn them. It's an immune system booster. It flushes out toxins. It reduces inflammation. It helps anyone here get arthritis pain. A couple of people. It helps with arthritis pain. Good for breathing and congestion. Injury healing, which is what I did the other day. Blood sugar levels. Detox. Helps with migraine pain. You can also you can use it to make a nasal spray. It promotes hair growth. It's a food preservative. You can use it as a self-defense spray. You mix cayenne pepper with some oil, or even something like vinegar, and someone breaking into your house, if they won't take a Bible tract, spray them in the eyes with the cayenne pepper. And then it's good for acne. Young kids, right? You get acne. You can rub the cayenne pepper with a bit of gel or something on it, and it'll kill that. It's good for ulcers. It's an energy booster. Mental clarity. I don't know if that's really working for me yet, but anyway, you can use it as a rodent repellent and as a garden protector. Now, I get a lot of pests trying to eat my gardens, so you can sprinkle pepper around, and it interferes with their smell. You know, rats don't like it. So God made it. He didn't make any rubbish. And that's why I like, every time I go in the backyard, anyone here ever forget to pray? Well, I do. And I go out in the backyard, and as soon as I see the lime tree or the bananas, that reminds me who made them. And it's like a silent prayer. And you don't have to mouth the words. I just think, thank you, Lord, for that tree, because it's going to keep feeding me. And I think the evangelism using God's products that He made, and we'll bring that those biblical foods out later, and you can have a look. If God made it, it's got to be good. And you just keep that in mind. And the work that's being done with the Herald of Hope, with these tracts, I'd be very disappointed if there was any tracts left on that table when we all go. Take them home with you and use them. And if you've got an old friend or something that can't give out tracts, tell them about the Baptist Church down at Redland Bay. Use their resources. You know, if someone's got an old person with a few $100,000 in the bank, you get raptured out, you can't take it with you. Why leave it here for the Labor Party and the Greens? Invest it in Bible tracts. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks very much, guys.
Oh, thanks, man. I really
Yeah, that was a short lead.
I can't give you a long leash, that's the problem.
Oh, mate, I don't know. Oh, there we go.
A lot of what Mick's talking about, I've had some experience with as well. I had some very, very spicy chilies that couldn't be eaten. No, you will this afternoon?
I'll tell you this afternoon.
Yeah, cayenne, dried cayenne, not fresh, dried is on your wound, stop the bleeding straight away. I cut myself really badly with a knife in a health food store when I was working there, cutting cardboard, and I cut my arm, and I dumped cayenne pepper on it pretty fast, and it congeals straight away.
Yeah.
It's very, very handy in an emergency.
Good for someone having a heart attack.
Yeah, you can start. This is a funny story, Mick. This is the kind of story you tell. We had a bird crash into our window, and Dana went out, and the bird's there with its wings like this, its mouth open, and it looks dead. And she's looking at it, and she's like, quick, get some cayenne. She put cayenne pepper into a slurry and poured it into the bird's mouth, and the bird jumped up onto the floor. So, I don't know whether that bird was happy about it or sad, I don't know. You ask Dana about that. She revived the bird with the cayenne. She'd just been reading about it. Anyway. It is up to you. I'm going to give you a bit of an option. Mick's got another talk to do after lunch. I've got a talk on bees to do as well. They're the last two things for our day. It's about 10 to 12 now. I'm happy to talk about bees now. and then we'll have a break for lunch and come back for Mick, or I'll have a break now and we'll come back and do both after. It'll just give us an earlier mark perhaps if I jump into bees pretty much straight away, as long as you all come back for Mick after lunch.
No, we will.
All right?
Happily not.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well, I might ask, Joe, can you just cue that slideshow that I've got? Oh, how'd you pull up after those stings, Harry? How'd you pull up after those stings? Good. I've got little sores. That's me and me and me and me. All right. Joe, are you setting that up? I don't know. So just can you set up that presentation, Joe? Sorry?
Work in progress.
I'll tell you what, we can do this. There you go. We can just hide that while they figure it out. All right, well, I'll start with this while they're getting all that worked out. I'm going to read to you Proverbs 24:13, which says, "My son, eat thou honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb, which is sweet to thy taste." The scriptures from the beginning have celebrated honey. There's a warning as well about kind of not eating too much, so we'll talk about that in a moment, but the scriptures bear witness to the truth that honey is to be celebrated as part of God's good design. It's a blessing. It is a delight, makes your hibiscus tea taste better. Bees have been providing sweetness and pollination and life-sustaining work from the beginning of God's creation. And when you look at the honeybee, it's a miracle of God's design. The thing I most appreciate about keeping bees is just being studying and observing part of God's creation in a way that not everyone gets to. A little bee weighs less than a paperclip, yet it flies up to about 5 kilometres and then back again. Quite remarkable that they can travel and navigate so effectively. People will worry about having many hives in one location, but they know which hive to go back to. They're not confused. They don't go the wrong way. They communicate direction. They communicate distance. So one bee can go out, find a nectar source or a pollen source and come back and communicate that to the hive through a dance where they waggle to the others, and the bees know exactly where to go. So they don't have to lead them, they communicate. Like, imagine me telling you, you need to go to this tree 3 kilometres that way, and all I can do is dance. I couldn't do that. You would be lost. I'd have to go take you to it and say, this is the tree, but they can do it communicating. And they're a remarkable thing to observe. They each have jobs, they know their roles. There's nursing bees, there's guards that will guard the entrance to the hive. I've got bees that shepherd small hive beetle into colonies and keep them trapped in the corners. Small hive beetle are a pest I'll talk about a little bit later, but there are particular bees that will corral them in a corner of the bottom of the hive to stop them infesting the rest of the hive. So they all have jobs and they know their role. The bee's body is a masterpiece of design. They can carry nectar in their stomachs. Honey is bee vomit. I'm sorry. They ingest it at the source, they come back and regurgitate that in the hive, then it's refined and the moisture is extracted to the perfect shelf-stable kind of moisture content so that it can last indefinitely. it's just remarkable to watch, and how it all happens in harmony. They function as a hive, all right? So the queen directs the colony, and they're a blessing to observe. And it leads me to worship. When I'm working with bees, I'm often encouraged to worship the Lord for his wisdom, and the earth truly is full of his riches. This is no accident of nature. It's not evolution. It's part of God's design. And science today confirms what we all know, and the Bible declares to be true, that honey is a remarkably good thing. It contains enzymes. Can I get that to work on my screen for me, please? Contains enzymes, antioxidants, trace nutrients. It's antibacterial. Have you ever put honey on a wound? Manuka honey particularly is high in the particular constituent that helps against even staph. Sometimes people treat staph infections with Manuka honey, and it works quite well. You make your own medical decisions. I'm not a doctor either. So take every piece of advice I give with a grain of salt. Raw local honey has also been told to help people with seasonal allergies. If people get pollen that affects them, some people say eating the honey that's been foraged off the trees that are flowering near you can actually give you that little bit of inoculation effect, because you're taking in small amounts of pollen in your food. So, and there's different scientific arguments, some for that, some against it. A lot of folks feel very strongly about it. In a world that's becoming less stable, I think keeping bees is a blessing. Food chains are fragile. It's nice to have some honey available at all times. Keeping bees for me is more than a hobby. I make a little bit of money. I sell some honey. Mind you, not nearly enough to cover all the expenses, but it's a blessing, and there are ways that you can make some money out of that. But honey in the Bible. Oh, wonder of God's creation. Oh, the shape of anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Even these hexagons that you see there, what I find remarkable, the uniformity of the comb is beautiful. But what you can't see in this picture, and I can't show you, but in the very centre of each of those hexagons, the other side of the foundation is offset perfectly, so that this hexagon here, well, on the back, it's exactly offset for structural perfection. Right. It's just remarkable the way they do that, and you can look through it in the light and you can see a pattern, and it's like a grid of hexagons and another grid of hexagons, and they all just line up absolutely mathematically perfectly, and just a marvel. It really is. I talked about the waggle dance. Yeah. The Bible uses honey to describe a number of things. It shows us that, honey is part of God's provision. In fact, when Israel was called into the promised land, it was described to them as a land that flowed with milk and honey, a picture of provision and blessing. Jonathan eats honey and his eyes are enlightened. It's like gives energy, and I can relate to that because there's been days when I've been working bees and a spoonful of honey straight from the hive gives you a little bit of energy, and it kind of wakes you up, which has been good. Jacob sends honey as part of a valuable gift during famine in Genesis 43 as well. It's described to be good. It's also symbolic of God's word, and you can turn to these references there. Psalm 19 and Psalm 119 might be good just to turn to if you've got your Bibles. And then I'll get to some practical things just shortly. I want to race through this quick. But it's a nice reminder. Psalm 19 and Psalm 119. I'll read Psalm 19 verse 9 and 10. Psalm 19, 9 and 10. Which says, "The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey in the honeycomb." I think God is using one of the sweetest parts of his creation to make us realise that God's word is sweeter still. His word is more precious than gold and sweeter than honey. Over in Psalm 119, 103, the Bible says, "How sweet are thy words unto my taste, yea, sweeter than honey to my mouth." Proverbs 16:24, "Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones." I don't know that means honey is health to the bones. I know that the word is. I think that's probably because I can't try and find a medicinal link to say that honey is good for your osteoporosis. All right, I can't say that honey is good for the bones, but the sweetness of the word is nutrient to our life. How sweet are thy words to my taste, sweeter than honey to my mouth, health to thy bones. All right, it's a picture of abundance and blessing. God promises the land flowing with milk and honey, but the warnings are there in Proverbs 25. It says, hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee. You can have too much of a good thing. And I have definitely done that. I've been working, extracting honey all day with not much to eat except for honey. And it doesn't do you any favours. You know, the sugar high and the crash, honey does that too. All right. So if you think, no, everything in moderation. Proverbs 25:27 is not good to eat too much. Forgive my question mark. This is Apple to Mac, Apple to PC conversion. Why beekeeping? Why do I do it? Well, I learned keeping bees as a job when I was down in Victoria, but today I do it because I quite like having a source of food on hand that can be bartered and it's valuable to people, and it stores indefinitely without refrigeration. It's a food that you can lay up in store, you can use years and years after you've extracted it, and there's money to be made if necessary. So that's some of the reasons I do that. You can sell honey, you can use beeswax. Interestingly enough, you might have seen, we use cling wrap so much. Have you ever seen the wax wraps that people use on their food? Have you ever used those? You can make them easily with some cotton cloth, soak it in beeswax, and it makes it impervious to the food, and you can wrap your food in a natural product rather than a plastic product. Now, it doesn't work as well as cling wrap, let's be honest. Like, cling wrap's so good at clinging to stuff, but if petroleum products are an issue, you want to use something natural, you can do that. So beeswax has some roles. Well, we've made candles over the years. We've made a tapered candles by dipping we get string, wicking string, you tie a weight to the bottom and you dip it in a burner full of wax, and then you wait for it to dry, and then you dip it again, and you do it about 60 times over and over, and it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, so the layers of wax cling to the wick, and you can create a candle like that. We make lots of them, double-ended. We give them away at Christmas time to people. They make candles, you can make products. Dana uses beeswax, making balms and ointments and things like that. It hardens up lotions to make it so it's a bit thicker and sticks onto your skin. So beeswax is a blessing. You can sell beeswax by you don't know. I don't know what the honey price is right now. I sell honey for about $10 a kilo. It's actually quite a bit more to get local honey. It's quite expensive. Beeswax used to sell at about $7 a kilo. I don't know what it is right now. Nucleus colonies is where you split a hive and you create your own small nuke off that hive. You sell that for around $200, $250. So there's ways of making a little bit of money out of keeping bees. Who's had, when they've got a sore throat, bit of honey and lemon and ginger, cup of tea. Community benefit, I personally use my bees as a bit of an escape where I can just go and be away from people for a little bit and just be a bit quiet and spend some time alone. But there are ways that you can use bees to make community connections, and you can bring people out and you can spend some time together, you can teach, you can share. So there's ways that you can strengthen community and you can spend time together teaching and encouraging each other. You can help each other with, and it is a big job, so it's good to work together with people. Practical urban beekeeping. Why would anyone want to try and keep bees, and how would you go about it? I'm going to talk about regulations and the process of how to get started if you want to later. But I'm going to talk to you about some of these things, types of hives. Who's heard of a flow hive before? All right. Langstroth, that's the surname of the fellow who invented it, but that's you're thinking of a rectangular box beehive, that's a Langstroth hive. There's also a hive called a Warre hive, W-A-R-R-E, which is a little bit smaller. I've had experience with Langstroth, Flow and Top Bar. They're the three types that I've had experience with. That's a layout of a Langstroth hive, and it's a standard type hive, all right? It's a box, you know, all the titles are there. You don't need all those bits to make it work, but a base, a box with frames, and some boxes on top with more frames and a lid. All right, there's some bits in there that help the process. The excluder, the queen excluder, makes sure the queen stays. See the queen excluder there? It's got little wire mesh across the top. The queen is slightly larger than the female bees. So the queen excluder is designed so the queen can't fit through, but the female bees can. So the eggs all stay in the bottom box and the honey all stays in the top box. Just makes it a little bit easier to extract later on. Yeah, so, and these you can make yourself or you can buy them. You can find plans and you can do a little bit of woodworking and create your own. Who's heard of one of those? That's a Flow hive. It's a modified version of that. Okay. But it's got frames made of plastic in the top box there, which you can turn the little wheels here and offset the centre of the foundation, and then the honey runs out and then out the little pipe, and you can get honey without having to extract it. It offers ease, and some people are quite attracted to keeping a Flow hive because I just got to turn it and do it and it's easy. What do we say about things that seem too good to be true? Well, they work, but you need to do all the same work that you do for every other type of hive. You can't. The extraction process is a little bit easy, but all of your inspections, all of your management, all of your material maintenance, you still have to do all the work. So if you think that it's like get one of these, it just sits there and you just turn it and you get honey, it's easy, I would suggest don't, because you're going to end up with a dead hive and angry beekeepers near you because you've probably created a disease risk. Whenever I see one of these in someone's front yard, backyard, side yard, I do this. Because normally people don't look after them. And that creates problems for them and it creates problems for any beekeeper within 5 kilometres of them. This is why I love bees and I like people who genuinely want to get into beekeeping and I want to help people with that, but I tell you, if people aren't sure about it and don't want to do the work, don't do it. Because then it just creates more problems for everybody else. But they're good to a degree. This is another version, that's a Top Bar hive, and he's happy about it. A Top Bar hive, I really like in a lot of ways, but who's heard of varroa mite? Varroa mite's a problem that's now in our country and we have to deal with, and it's a mite infestation that affects the brood of the developing baby bees, all right, the brood chamber, with tiny little, very small mites. And you need to treat it regularly. And there are some natural organic treatments, but you need to hang strips within the brood at particular times. And if you see here, there's like gaps that you can easily manipulate and you can hang your treatment strips in there and you can deal with it. And your brood, if you've got your excluder, is all going to be in here. So you can easily treat your brood. You can have no boxes on top at the time so you can withhold the honey, and once your treatment's done then you can put your boxes back on and you know that your honey's not going to be affected with whatever treatment you've had to use. The problem with that system is that it's a long hive like this, a horizontal hive, rather than a hive like this, and your brood chamber extends throughout and your honey is all intermingled. So to treat varroa mite, that hive system is really limited. As much as I like them, because you don't need boxes and frames sitting around, you just got a bit of timber, 38mm strip of timber, cut to length, laid across the top. you got to be careful to train your bees, because bees can be a bit squirrely and want to do weird, wonderful patterns underneath, and it turns into a honey sticky mess when you try and lift it. But he's happy because he's finally got one out without it breaking, all right? Because they are fussy, all right? But it's called a Kenyan top bar. Why do you think it's called a Kenyan top bar? Because it's an African style of hive made for, like, you know, it's out of the bush, right? But it's a very natural system. When you're looking at keeping bees, if you're ever interested, I can talk to you about site selection and choosing, but essentially you want the hive entrance to face north, northeast, so it gets morning sun. Who likes waking up with the sun just streaming through their bedroom window? And do you like that feeling? Bees do, whether you do or not. All right, so they like their entrance facing the morning and the morning, midday sun, not the west hot afternoon sun. They don't really want that. So you kind of face them that way. You want them sheltered. Obviously, leaving them, you can leave them out in a paddock, but you do need to make sure that, you know, their lids are stable and they're well protected from water. Neighbours, if you're keeping bees in town, neighbours are a blessing and they're a problem. They just are. You've got to manage neighbours, because not everyone can handle bees. Some people are anaphylactic, you know, they react badly. They could even die from a bee sting. So you've got to be really sensitive to that. Now, most people who complain about bees are not anaphylactic. My next door neighbour, I got bees at home, my next door neighbour is anaphylactic reactive to bees. But he's happy for me to keep bees. He just says, oh, if you're doing something in the yard and the bees are all active, just come let me know. Like, because I've got a good relationship with my neighbour. Most complaints come from people who have salt chlorinated swimming pools, because the bees love a salty drink. They drink swimming pool water more. You can put a drum full of water, and to water bees, if you just give them a drum full of water, they'll drown. You need to float something on the surface, like, you know, the rubber mat or the foam mats that you put down under your awning, your caravan awning, like the interlocking stuff that got the holes in it, they float. So you normally cut one of those out and create a lid with holes in it so the bees can land and drink and fly off again without getting stuck. Short of that, a bunch of corks was the old way of doing it. People would just get corks from somewhere and just float 3 inches of corks or 2 inches of corks on the surface so the bees can get a drink that way without drowning. But you can do that, you go to all this effort, and they'll just go next door to the swimming pool. So if you've got salt chlorinated pools nearby, those people are going to need honey. You're going to have to pay them. And you're going to have to work out if they love bees or they don't. And if they don't love bees and they're going to be a source of complaint, you'll probably end up not being able to keep bees, because community complaints, keeping bees in the suburbs, community complaints are the one thing that the council will hear, and they'll ask you to make some changes to prevent those things happening. So, and to stop swimming pools and bees, it's really, really hard. So you try and manage that by plying people with honey. That's what I try and do. And also just general communication. Like, you go to them and say, look, I've had some swarms come into my yard from time to time, so I go tell my neighbours, look, there's some bees really active at the moment. If, you know, it shouldn't be for too long. You know, can I do anything? Whatever. Is this going to be an issue? No, thanks for letting us know. They're very good. All right. Other things to think about if you do keep bees. They poo. I was trying to think of a nice way of saying that. While they're flying. So if you have a hive entrance that points over your driveway, your car will get yellow splots all over it. And they will be waxy splots. And they are hard to get off. So you don't point it towards your driveway. When I had drove the Black Amarok, I used to, because it got hot in the sun, it would work as wax. You'd wash it, but you wouldn't get the residue off, and you just buff it until it worked into the paint. And you'd be like, okay, that's it, it's done. Sorry for giving you the details. Or washing lines. Can you imagine how annoying that is, hanging out your white sheets and then coming out later on and being like, well, what? Things to think about that you don't think about until you've had the bad experience. So yeah, pools, neighbours, away from heavy foot traffic is obvious. There are different jobs at different times of the year, but it does take work. This is a game for us to play. Tell me which one is that. Who can spot the queen? The easiest one's top right. Yep. Yeah, so the top right, we got that one there. Slightly larger, slightly longer. The female bees have got round abdomens, like round tails, I guess we'll call it. And the males have really round, fat. Males in the hive are kind of useless. Ladies all go, I know. They don't produce honey. They're drones. Yeah.
And mate with the queen once.
Yeah, their job is to mate with the queen once, and then that's it. And if you've got so many of them, and they waste of space, they eat honey. This, see the comb up here? See this up here? That's drone comb. So that's going to hatch into male bees, same as all this. And this here is standard comb. All the way through here, the whole thing is laid up with eggs and forming bees, and that's just standard worker bees. I don't have a picture of a queen cell in any of this, but yeah, so when you see a hive that's full of all these big, bulgy things, you're like, honestly, you would almost think of requeening the hive, killing off that queen and starting again, getting rid of all of the frames with those large, oversized cells. See how they're bigger? Bigger than those ones? That she will lay in that, and it will always be a drone. They won't change. So if you've got drone comb in your brood box that's got oversized holes, it will always lay drones. So you remove those frames out and put new frames in so that you'll train her to lay workers. Things you know. But this is why probably registering or being part of a beekeeping group is really important, because people teach you that. They'll say, hey, these are all drone comb, you need to get rid of it. Finding your queen is so fun. Once you find her, it's like, because these are stationary. I mean, these bees are not doing that for you out in the field. When you pull a frame out and you look at it, they don't just go smile and look at you. They move all the time. So you're looking at a moving, like, find a queen. This one is tricky. Anyone see her? Oh, I've forgotten. Oh no, I did point over her. That's probably the hardest one. This one on the bottom. This one, I'll let you do this one the big way. Look at that.
Yeah, oh yeah, look at it.
How good does she look? Can you see her?
Yeah.
She looks so good. Like if I had that, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Can anyone else see her? Harry's seen her because he's kept some bees. Down the bottom. Down the bottom.
Over halfway.
There she is. She's got an elongated abdomen. She like runs to a point.
Some people put a dot on them, don't they?
Yep, so they mark them. So this one here does have a marked queen, but it's really tricky to see and it's all dark. This is more what it's like finding queens beautiful in the sun like this and this. It happens, and you get better at it because the bees have a habit. Like there'll be escort workers that will clump over the queen to shelter her. So when you're watching the movement, there'll be a little patch of bees moving in a direction. You'll be like, I reckon the queen's under that. So you just grow to know that stuff the more you work with them. But she's down here.
Oh, I can't really.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit dark and hard, but it's the... No, I'm not going to make it big. You can play this game, but yeah, this is really nice. You can see all of this capped brood underneath, and there's some gaps in this brood, like there's little unformed, so that's not a perfectly healthy brood pattern, but that's nice. And the queen, she looks good. She looks young and like she's going to be useful. If you keep bees, you need to register with Biosecurity Queensland. Romans 13 tells us to obey the powers, right? And I think it's a better testimony for Christians to, as much as lies within us, to live peaceably with men and to follow the government requirements. Like, unless it's an issue of obeying God rather than men, I try and follow what they say. But Biosecurity Queensland offers you registration. It's free if you're not a commercial beekeeper, but you do agree to comply to the Biosecurity Act of 2014, and that means you have to basically do things the right way. So if you've got diseases, and there are some diseases that you need to be aware of, they need to be reported. Varroa mite, absolutely, we're reporting at the moment. AFB, or American foul brood, is a reportable disease to Biosecurity Queensland, and if you find positive or hives positive with that disease, you notify them, they notify all the beekeepers in the area of the AFB outbreak, and you are obligated to destroy that hive and any material that's come into contact with that hive, and probably the other hives in your apiary. It's a really bad disease. I'll show you a picture of it in a minute. Because as much as I love bees, this is the raw truth. It's gross sometimes. Some days you turn up and it's beautiful, and you're just like, oh Lord, thank you for your beautiful creation. And other days you turn up and you're devastated because you open a frame and it's got this crawling on it. Any ideas what that might? Harry knows, maybe he doesn't. If you've kept bees, you might know. Any guesses on what that might be? It's the larvae. It looks like a maggot. It moves like a maggot. Small hive beetle. Little beetle, black beetle, about 3 to 5 millimetres, 3 millimetres. And they are endemic through Queensland, New South Wales, right down into Victoria. They are a pain that every beekeeper has to manage. If left this badly, that's a pretty bad infestation. If left that way, you can lose the whole hive. The hive will abscond because people think, oh, bees, you've been all... Bees can leave whenever they want. There's no fences. If you create an environment that's not convenient for them, they'll find an environment convenient to them. Like, they'll go. They don't do it quickly because the pheromones and the wax and the queen herself all like bind the hive together. But if the queen goes, this is not working out, she'll just go and they'll all go with her. Then you'll lose your hive. If you had that many small hive beetle larvae across the brood, that's on the honey right there, but if it was in the brood and they wriggle all through the comb and they make a horrible mess of it, you'd likely lose that hive. It'd be a slime, we call it a slime out, because all those little maggots crawl out the entrance and it's gross slime that follows them. It's terrible. Yes?
What happens then if you got some other hives and put next, like fairly close to?
So, small hive beetle is in.
Go there?
Small hive beetle is in every hive in Queensland, pretty much. It's just the degree of infestation.
So if they're going to shift out, if
Yeah.
you provided another one for them, would they go there or would they?
The bees,
Yeah.
they can do unpredictable things. You can have everything lined up, a perfect home for them right next door, and they'll fly off into someone's roof and cause problems. There are ways you can bait them, lure them. Lemon balm, essential oil, is an attractant for a swarm. So if there's a swarm hanging on a tree and you can't get up there and manually put it into a box because it's too high or something, you can put a box nearby and put some lemon balm out of your garden or lemon balm essential oil, just drop a few drops in it and they are attracted to that. So there are things you can do. There's probably other chemical versions of that attractants on the market. So you can do things, but then they'll choose something different. Like they do their own thing.
With those grubs,
Yep.
is there some methodology
Yep. Yeah, so how do you treat them? How do you minimise them? Mechanical traps or cockroach bait. So they're, or diatomaceous earth. So I use 3 different ways of controlling small hive beetle. The most obvious I do in every single one of my hives is I throw in a Chuck's cloth, like a blue kitchen cloth, stretch it out so that the fibres become a bit more loose. You know, when you stretch them, they kind of fold it up again, throw it in the hive, and the beetle's legs, the adult beetle, get trapped in it. And the bees know that, so the bees corral the beetles to the trap, and I go in every time I inspect a hive. I go grab that, it's probably got 30 or 40 adult beetles, chuck it away, burn it, get rid of it, and put a new one in. It's like a roll of chucks for a mechanical trap. If you get an infestation and you need to treat it with chemicals, which is like my least, I very rarely do this, but when I have to, you have to. You get a cockroach bait with entrances smaller than the bees can crawl in, but the little beetles can. It's a bit like, you know, your rat trap, your rat bait boxes. It's a bee version, all right? So the bees can't get in, but the beetles can, and you put cockroach bait paste in there, which is an insecticide. I'm really unpleasant. I don't really like putting insecticides in my hives. I feel like even though you're mechanically separating them, I don't like doing it. You can also use the, you know, elections come around, they put the corflute signs with the, so you can cut squares of corflute and pump the cockroach bait into that, and the bees can't get in, but the beetles can, so you can do it with that.
What effect do these beetles have on the quality of the honey?
That, I would be reluctant, I'd be destroying. With that, I would freeze it potentially, because you can freeze the grubs and kill them like you do any other grub, and put it back on the hive, and the bees will eat that honey. But I wouldn't extract that to sell or to eat myself, because it has a distinct, there is a flavour that you can get if you've got that kind of maggot crawling on stuff. Some beekeepers will. So you've got to work out where you get your honey from, because it's the same as any, and the commercial industry is a whole nother ball game. Like a local beekeeper who loves his bees is going to give you the best quality honey because he's looking after his bees the best he can. Commercial guys, not always great practices. But that's the least. It looks horrible, but that's actually the least of the problems. That's like a regular occurrence in beekeeping world here in Queensland. Those little red mites are not. They're varroa mite. That's what we're on guard for at the moment, and why we're going to need to put up a treatment protocol. If anyone's keeping bees or wants to, you need to have a varroa management plan in place, monitoring and then treating. It's going to be a bit of an issue. And it's going to cost, I think, to do it organically, it's going to cost like 30 to 40, even, yeah, $30, $40 a hive for every treatment. It's like, that's going to be a fair expense. Sorry?
How often?
There needs to be 3 to 4 treatments a year. And you have to rotate through different treatments because the mite grows resistant to one. Now there's like chemical ones that smash them really hard and work really well. I'm trying not to give you too much overwhelming detail, but that's
The white stuff.
yeah, the white. So the white, that's actually a bee brood being formed that's been removed out of its cell to do a drone brood inspection. These little grubs like the big juicy boys because they've got bigger brood, and they're feeding off the nutrient inside the brood in that baby bee, and they get more out of the boys. So like if you're not managing your hives, you've got a lot of drone comb that's producing male bees, you're more susceptible to varroa mite, which is another reason why I'm not keen on the top bar hive, because it's hard to control what kind of cells they form. So this is a test done by a beekeeper where they'll get a fork, like it's like a paint scraper, just pointy fork, like with spikes on it, and they just scratch across the top of the brood and they pull out the bees before they've been formed. Kills the bees. That bee's not going to form. That's dead. But it's like an inspection test, so you pull it out and you look and you see how many, because you can see the red mite against the white flesh of the the brood, but you can't see it against, or easily against, the mature dark body of the bee. So they get stuck, and they can work their way into the crevices, under the wings, into the cracks, and you just can't see them very easily. So that's a brood test. Other ways that you test for them is a sugar shake test. Get 100 bees, put them in a jar, put some icing sugar in there, shake the jar. I'm letting you into the world of beekeeping. It's a brutal test. You've got to shake the jar, stir up the bees enough to dislodge the mites, because the powdery sugar makes the mites let go. So you shake it, let it out, let the bees out. Probably pretty angry bees at this stage because you're just shaking them up. And then you pour out the powdered sugar on a white sheet of paper, and you look for the little red spots and you count them. And if you've got more than a threshold, then you treat the hive. If you've got less than a threshold or none, you go, yes. Who'd want to be a farmer? Like, guys who rely on this for their, like, and this is why hobbyists and people who say, oh yeah, I've got a flow hive, I haven't looked at it for 3 years. We all go, oh man. And I'm probably on a more dutiful end of the hobbyist spectrum, but I still don't get to my bees as often as I would like to. And these are the reasons. So that last one is the worst. See that matchstick? That's the end of a matchstick. It's been poked into a cell. These ones here, I'll hop out of the way. See how the caps on these cells are a bit sunken? If we went back to, yeah, there's some cells in here, like they're not, that's a little sunken. I'd be, you know, these guys are not, they're looking pretty good. Nice light colour. But over here, it's dark. What I can tell you from this picture is that stinks like wet socks left for 3 weeks in a teenager's bedroom. It's like, it's really, really not nice. They call it American foul brood because the brood, that turns into foul muck. It's a disease that affects the brood. And the test to indicate whether you've got a positive outbreak of it is called a matchstick test. And you get your frame, you look at it, and if I had that frame, I'd be in tears because likely the whole apiary, however many bees you've got on that site, are about to get burnt. And you're the one who's going to have to do it. And then bury all the material. It's not fun. I've had to do it once. I've had AFB once, and it's not pleasant. It's, you know, makes you emotional actually. It's really not nice. But yeah, you get the little matchstick, you swirl it around inside the brood cell and you mush up the bee that was forming in there, and then when you pull that matchstick out, if it strings like that, that's a positive sign that you've got AFB. Yep.
Does your hive get infected from other bees?
Yeah.
Other bees visit that hive?
Yeah. So that hive is probably dead because there's a threshold. So if a strong hive, this is the sad irony of AFB and why it's so, a strong hive will rob a weak hive. So if someone's hive's got disease, so its brood cycle, its repopulation cycle is impacted by a disease, it's obviously not going to have strong population. The next generation of bees are not growing and forming. And it's likely not foraging well because it doesn't have the strength of bees. So it's going to starve, it's going to have stunted growth, and a strong hive within 3 or 4 kilometres might look at its remaining honey stores and go, that's easier than getting the nectar and regurgitating it back home, and there's no bees defending it, let's go get it. And they do. And then they bring AFB spores back to the hive. The reason it's so controlled is because you can't freeze them, you can't, treatment for AFB material exposed to AFB, if it's honeycomb or wax, you can't treat it. If it's brood comb, I should say. If it's stickies that have come out of the honey stores. You can irradiate it. You can send it off to a company that will put it on a pallet and they'll zap it with gamma rays to kill off the AFB spores. But that's it. You can burn it, scorch it, but if you miss a spore, it lies dormant in the ground for 30 years. You can paint over it, and the moment it's exposed to the air 30 years later, it's nasty stuff. It's too negative. Sorry for talking about nasty stuff, but that's the reality of trying to keep bees. And it happens. You just have to follow the protocols and make sure you don't cross-contaminate things so that you can maintain the health of the rest of your hives, which is why I tend to keep some hives at different locations. I've got some hives here and some hives there, so if one particular apiary goes down with a disease, I'm less likely to lose the entire flock, for lack of a better word. These are not me, but they look happy. Why do I like beekeeping? After that, because for me, I'm trying to get my notes here. I told you before, it's like a quiet time. It's a connection with creation, seeing the way God has designed things and how it all works together. For me, it's really hard to keep bees when you're angry. Any guesses why? They sting you. If you're rough with them, they'll sting. Like, I tend to keep bees wearing just a veil. Sometimes I don't even do that, but I'll have shirt like this, collar like this, shorts sometimes, jeans other times, overalls others, but bare face, bare arms, until I'm doing something and I realise, oops, I shouldn't have bumped that, and then I'll be like, better put my veil on. But for the most part, keeping bees, they tend not to sting you. I've got a hive in the backyard at the moment. I was sitting down in front of it with Edelyn, and she and I were sitting less than 1.5 meters away from the entrance, just sitting down watching them come and go, bringing pollen in and out and smelling the honey, listening to the noise. And I was talking to her, this is a happy noise. If we whacked that hive with a stick, it would turn into an angry noise. You'd be able to tell. So calm, careful, deliberate movements. You can't be fast. You've just got to be methodical. And when they go to sting you, you kind of move your hand out of the way, and you get a sense of that, and it becomes quite relaxing. And you say, really? It's good for physical activity. I mean, you lift boxes, you're out in the sunlight. Problem solving and learning, like you've got problems, you've got to deal with them. How do you fix it? How do you work this hive to produce what it needs? How do you is it queenless? Is it this? Does it need more honey? Does it need to be fed? Does it, why is this a problem? Are the cane toads eating all the bees? Sense of achievement. It's nice harvesting honey. It's nice, and I like the insight it gives into you, me personally. I like the quietness. But I also like seeing the industriousness of the, go to the ant or go to the bee. It's the same kind of application. All right, so what if it's not for you? We're nearly done. I've convinced you not to keep bees. Probably good, because if you want to, do it. It's awesome. If you're not sure, please don't. But what can you do? You can plant a garden that attracts pollinators. I mean, in fact, that's better to do than keep. If everyone kept bees, we'd just cause problems for each other. But if we all had a mindset to plant gardens that fed pollinators, butterflies and native bees and all sorts of things, including the European honeybee, that'd be a good thing. There's some examples. They're not all relevant for our zone, but most of them grow here. But there's some things that bees like. You can find, look that up. Pollinator-friendly plants, and you'll find a bunch of stuff that grow, and they're good. And you'll find them in your garden attracting bees from all over the place. Second thing, stop spraying everything. Please. Insecticide has its purpose. Herbicide has its purpose. This is the world we live in. But it kills bees. So what do? Well, don't use broad spectrum insecticides when you don't have to. And if you do treat for, different things, do it of an evening when the bees are all asleep. Because that first 3 or 4 hours of application is where it crosses across. And if you do it just on dark, the native bees, the local beekeepers, they're not going to be as affected. I had bees, and I have bees on an avocado farm out at Esk. I need to move them closer to home because they're too far away right now. But he sprays a conventional avocado grower, and he's got a full spray regime on his farm, but he sprays of a night time out of respect for local bees, and I have no hive loss from him. And he doesn't spray when things are in flower. He doesn't spray when the bees are going to be harvesting honey. He's quite aware of the impact he has on pollinators. And those bees have thrived for years and years out there on that farm with conventional spray use. Move them into the suburbs, and I know when I've been sprayed, well, my bees have been sprayed because I'll look at the entrance and there's bees dead on the ground with their tongue sticking out. They've fed on insecticide. They come home and die. And you don't know where it is, you don't know what the problem is, and you know if it's an ongoing problem, you've got to move your bees away from there because this is likely to kill off your hive strength. So, the things you know. Minimise harm from chemicals, provide water sources. You can help them not drink out of swimming pools by creating your own bird baths and things like that. Support beekeepers and buy local honey is a big deal. And not just for me, just find your local beekeepers and support them because the industry is pretty hard. Mind you, when the honey flows on, it can be very profitable. So, but it's good to support local when you can. Teach and inspire others. That's a beautiful looking, Echinacea and Alstroemeria, I think they are in the front or something like it. I don't know, but yeah, this was off a Pollinator Friendly Garden article, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, it does look pretty. It's not as tropical. Pleasant words are as in honeycomb, sweet to the soul, health to the bones. Yeah, beekeeping. If you are interested in keeping bees, let me know, and I'll have you come out and we'll work some bees together. And you can look at mine and you can go, it's too much hard work. Or you can go, hey, I want to do that, and then I can help you with what you need to do next. Council's pretty good. Biosecurity is very good. Yeah, there are challenges, but you can navigate them. But it's good to have someone who has a bit of an idea. So if you want to do it, let me know. I can even help you find some hives. So anyway, let's pray. We might actually pray for lunch too before we head off. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you that your creation is wonderful, and we see problems in the world around us, but we also see that you have ordered creation and the sun and the moon, the days, the seasons. They roll by, and the bees, and they just keep buzzing, as it were. And we just thank you for that confidence that you are in control, and you clothe the lilies of the field, you feed the sparrows. Sparrow doesn't fall to the ground without you knowing. Lord, you are a great God, a caring God, and thank you for the ways in which we can see that in our world. We just pray these things. We thank you for the opportunity to have some lunch. We pray that you bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.